Welcome back to another episode of Inside Boxing Live. I am Dan Canobio. He is the former WBO 140-pound champion, a real champion, Chris Algieri. Let's get right into it, Chris. Rolly Romero. We lead the show with the newest WBA world champion. He, quote-unquote, wins the world title over Ismael Barroso in a ridiculous stoppage, maybe the worst stoppage of all time. Let's talk about the fight first. We all know that Rolly didn't have the fundamentals that some of his counterparts have. We all know that he has his deficiencies, but I didn't know he was going to look that bad. Dropped by Barroso, who's not known as that much of a puncher, and just looked bad. Was down on the cards before he got the gift stoppage there from Tony Weeks. What did you think of Rolly in this fight against Barroso?
Well, first and foremost, the fight sucked. It was very low energy. There was very few punches thrown. You're the numbers guy. I'm sure you read the numbers.
Yeah, it was below 40 rounds.
Very low output fight. Both respected each other's power. And, I mean, Barroso looked very good. He looked like he was a much more seasoned guy. He looked much more comfortable with what he wanted to do. He's always been a very physically strong guy. And I actually disagree with you. He can punch. And he was known as a puncher. And, you know, he's southpaw. He wings big shots. Kind of similar to Rolly, except he's a lot cleaner. And Rolly looked very nervous all night long. He looked like he didn't want to get hit by Barroso. He said afterwards that he hits 1,000,000 times harder than Tank Davis, which obviously that's hyperbole, but still, he looked very uncomfortable in the ring. He was being out-savvied, out-powered, out-strengthed, It looked like a man versus a boy, honestly. So all in, the fight was not very good. Yeah, but Rolly was exceptionally bad.
Yeah, Barroso can punch.
Yeah.
Does he hit harder than Tank? No. I mean, Rolly said all the right things after the fight. He said it was tough. He's like, listen, Rolly said himself, I've only been in this for 10 years. This guy is 40 years old. He started when he was like, you know, in his 8 or 9. It's like, do the math. Like, he's been around for much longer than me. But when it comes down to it, Rolly is the champ. He is now holds one of the major belts at 140 pounds, which is just insane. And obviously, we'll move over to what we saw from the refereeing. It's like a trickle-down effect. Like Albert Puello, this whole situation all around just shows boxing in a nutshell. Albert Puello tests positive for clomiphene. That correct way to say it?
Yeah, clomiphene, yeah.
The same drug that Conor Benn was allegedly on as well. So he pops for that. Then we got to find a replacement for this title fight that Rolly was in, which he should not have been in the first place. They find Ismael Barroso, who's been ranked number 1 by the WBA for, they said, like 3 years. And the guy's 40 years old, and we know that he's not. That's in any other ranking that just doesn't fly. So then we get into the ring, and we see, like you just said, Chris, not a good fight. Visually, not a fun fight to watch, not a fun fight to track. He's down in the first round or the early part of the fight. Rolly, his knockdown, in the third round, his knockdown was a push.
Yes, push.
Weeks steps in, fight over. Rolly's a champion. The whole thing just stunk, and it slapped right in your face. Like,
if you look at the last volley, the best punches were landed by Barroso. Like, it was insane. Like, he lands a beautiful overhand right that clips Rolly on the ear. He rolls around. He had hit Barroso with a left hook. And then he rolls like 3 punches, goes to throw another one, and Weeks steps in. It was wild. I mean, Barroso was literally landing the better punches at the time of the stoppage.
It's easy to say worst stoppage you've ever seen. This sport has been around for over 100 years. Some respected people like Al Bernstein, who's seen a lot of stuff. My father, who's seen a lot of boxing. Like, legitimately worst stoppage of all time. Like, people are saying that. Like, Tony Weeks, what the heck happened there? I'll ask you, Chris. Do you think it was corruption or do you think it was incompetence?
I mean, I'll never know, and we'll never know. You know, it's easy. I mean, with everything that you look at, when you lay it all out, it's like, wow, how was it not corruption? The guy who was supposed to win, who wasn't even supposed to be there, is fighting a guy who definitely wasn't supposed to be there and is losing the fight and ends up getting a gift at the end. You know, all that adds up to being like, well, how do they not? You know, how do you not think the fix is in? But also, I don't know. I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of a Tony Weeks or a referee or an official at that standpoint. It's like, do you look at it like, because I know Barroso, you know, we've been kind of joking about it. He's listed at 40, but he looks like he's 80. Does that play a part? Does Tony Weeks think like, older guy, if he's hurt, maybe I should quote unquote save him, which I think is completely out of control because the guy was winning the fight. But also, you got to let a fighter fight. I don't know. I don't know how it could just be incompetence because Tony Weeks is not that kind of guy. So, but listen, refs have bad days just like anyone else and anything else. I don't know. I know I'm a pessimistic CA, but I try to stay away from the idea of the boxing Illuminati taking over everything and getting everybody on the take and people throwing fights and blah blah blah. But it's just I don't know. This is a real gut punch for boxing fans.
It was a gut punch, and it's like, oh, a lot of times I was like, no one will see it, but you got it's like Dame Lillard, who is a NBA superstar, watched it, and he tweeted it out to his millions of fans, and it was just like an over the top reaction of what the heck did we just watch? Why? What? This is just wrong. Like this doesn't happen in any other sport, and it's very easy to say corruption. I mean, it's an ongoing, long running joke in the sport. Not really a joke, Oh, boxing's corrupt.
Not a funny joke, at least,
right? We hear it all the time. And you just kind of laugh it off, and it's like, yeah, it's sometimes some things aren't on the up and up. So it's very easy to go the corruption route. Just the same things you said with how Rolly got this shot, and the house fighter was supposed to win. He jumps in there too. But take a look at it from an incompetent standpoint. Tony Weeks has been a part of some big time fights, over close to 900 bouts, Chris. Part of some infamous boxing moments. He was the referee for Corrales Castillo. Multiple knockdowns in that fight. He allowed that to go on. He was the referee in Badu Jack versus Marcus Brown, where Badu Jack had one of the nastiest cuts you'll ever see, and that picture has been circulated forever of Tony Weeks covered in blood. Allowed that one to go on. But this last one is the one that I think that maybe got into the back of his mind, and that's David Morrell's win over Eidos Urbasanelli last November when Urbasanelli fell into the coma. He let that fight go on too long. I mean, that snuck into the back of his mind. I've seen angles of it where it looked like Rolly landed a shot and it looked like Barroso was slumped down. They are human. Like, we do make mistakes. Like, human error is part of the sport in every other sport with umpires and referees. So it could just be pure incompetence. Take a look. Another thing is the age of these referees in Las Vegas. I'm not an ageist, but like, don't you think they should be, if there's two young guys in the ring, you want some guys that are fresh in there. Tony Weeks, 66. Mike Ortega, 65. Kenny Bellis, 73. Robert Byrd, 80. Russell Mora, 61.
Well, listen, two things. One, I'm in Florida now, right? So there's a lot of really old people with driver's license. They need to be rechecked. So maybe we need to do the same thing with referees. We need to be able to recheck their aptitude and their cognitive ability, because listen, time beats everybody. And when you need to make fast-paced decisions like boxing, there's nothing faster. There's no game as fast in the world. Maybe we need to start thinking about, as these referees and these career officials get older, we need to retest them more often. And I don't even think there's any. I don't know. I don't know what it takes for that. Maybe that's what's missing. Maybe there's some kind of oversight that should be there, aside from whatever repercussions that you would get, or kind of oversight or punishment you should get for messing up like this. There's no repercussions.
That's the problem. There's no repercussions. Showtime went to go talk to Tony Weeks. They said no. They went to go talk to the commission. They said no. They don't answer to anyone.
That's actually a rule by the commission. You're not allowed to speak to the referee. Cannot make a public.
Well, sometimes they do.
They're not supposed to.
It was a Showtime show recently. A ref spoke. Jim Gray grilled him, and he came out not looking great at all. Eddie Claudio.
Well, that's why the commissions don't want you to do that.
But still, even that just made it look even more shady. Like, props to Showtime for saying, like, straight up, that was a horrible stoppage. Like, Al Bernstein said no. Morrell said that was pathetic. Let's go talk to them and ask them their reasoning why. Even that, not that saying that it would make it any right. I would like to hear what Tony Weeks. No one's heard from him. We're on now a week in, and we haven't heard from Tony Weeks. We haven't heard from a single person from the Nevada Athletic Commission. We haven't heard from the guy that runs it. We haven't heard from anyone. That's the problem here, too, is like they can get away with this, and we would just blow it over into the next fight. We're already looking forward to Haney Lomachenko. We're not even looking back to last week, the Steve Spark fight, where they had Guadalajara judges, the Guadalajara judges that came in to judge the Steve Spark fight. When it was supposed to be neutral guys. That happened 2 weeks ago. That's forgotten about. Now this fight
that was terrible. We felt bad for that kid. We talked about that night.
But did you know that what they did with the judges? They swapped them out.
Yes.
So that was last week.
I heard that from the inside. Yeah.
That's last week, and that's not a huge fight, so you don't really hear much about it. We have this week with this bad stoppage. Nothing. Like, who, it's like you're almost yelling into an abyss. Like, who do fans go to? Who do the reporters go to? Like, who is regulating these referees? It's like an old boys club. Like, I just went through these guys. Like, it's the same pool of referees every single week. Why would you even want to become a referee? Like, I'm saying, we need new young refs. What's the incentive to become a referee in boxing? What's the incentive to become a judge in boxing? You don't get paid a lot. Like, yeah, you got maybe a couple trips to Vegas per year, but it seems like they want to go with their same old guys trotting them out there. Even at the same time, Chris, Jack Reese over on ESPN, the fight he stopped the fight too long. He let it go on too long with Butler and Janabek. Literally at the same time. So I'm flipping back and forth, and I'm watching both these fights, and I'm like, Jack Reese is letting the fight go on too long. He's 60 years old, 900 fights refereed. Usually,
I like Jack Reese. He's a friend of mine. He's a fighter's fight. He goes to gyms and he'll referee sparring sessions to get reps, to get rounds, and to stay fresh. I like that. I don't know if he still does that. He was doing that when I was out in California about 10 years ago.
He's a good ref. I mean,
he's a good ref, and he's a fighter's ref, like how the late great Steve Smoger was. He let guys fight. He really liked and loved fighters, and I think that's part of it. Being a referee is a labor of love. Being a judge, and I travel with now that I'm a commentator, I travel on the same flights as a lot of judges as they're flying in, and get to talk to these guys all the time. They're excited. They love fighting. They love the sport. They want to help out any way they can. A lot of them are former fighters, guys who are in the sport in one way or another. But yeah, you allude to, they're not making a lot of money. And I hate the idea of corruption, but corruption is a real thing. And then how easy is it to buy someone's fealty to you? I don't know.
Yeah, they're not making a lot, and a lot of times the promoters are the ones that pay the commissions, or they work with the commission to put them up. It's just it's a sport unlike any other. Like in MLB, you graded, and the top umpires move on to the playoffs. And the bad umpires don't get the playoffs, don't get those high assignments. Same thing with the NFL. Like the guys that are refereeing, the guys and the women that are refereeing the Super Bowl and the playoffs, those are the best. In boxing, you're getting the same guys.
You're a numbers guy, so yeah, obviously you would think about these things. Baseball's a numbers sport. Boxing's not. You and your dad are the first people to bring numbers into boxing with any kind of actual, any kind of checks and balances. So I think everything else, boxing is late to the game when it comes to all that stuff.
Yeah, you're going to see guys
of sports.
You're going to see guys like Thomas Taylor. You saw him in the Tank Ryan Garcia fight. Not a Vegas referee, but at least they're bringing in outside referees. Like I think he's probably the best referee right now. And we're going to see a lot more of him. You're going to see a lot more of these New York referees going to Vegas and some of these bigger fights. Like you would think Tony Weeks is going to get into some trouble. Like you would think not trouble, but just like how about an explanation?
Well, we're probably not going to see him for a while. I would.
We'll see.
I don't know. I don't think we're going to see him at Haney Loma this weekend.
Well, I can't wait to. I'm actually really going to be locked into who the judges, who's going to be the referee for this fight, because they got a big one coming up this week, and they can't have these same mistakes happen again. You would think. Like I reached out to
picking judges was always a big part of my contract negotiations because. I listen. I don't think a lot of judges know exactly what's going on in the ring, and a lot of the things that I do as a boxer, in terms of someone who is a technician, if you don't know what you're looking at, you don't see all the things I'm doing: the footwork, the feints, the angles, the movement. If you're not really paying attention and you're only watching landed punches, and that's the only way you score a fight, then you're not going to be on my side for a lot of my fights. Like anyone who goes back and watches the Ruslan Veronica fight and scores the fight for him. You have no idea what boxing is. If you really watch that fight, there is no chance that guy won that fight. I don't care how much blood was coming out of my face or 2 knockdowns the first round. But yet, a judge had him winning wide. So, that always scared me. So I'm like, I got to make sure that whoever's looking at this fight and looking at my fight knows what they're looking at.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that in the sport.
We can't even we're not even talking about judges now. Judges are off the hot seat for this week, where all of our ire is on the referees.
The judges had it right.
Yeah, they had him up.
They had Barroso winning.
Yeah,
all of them. It was amazing.
Before we move on to the next topic, what do you think Rolly should go? Do you think he'll give him a rematch? Do you think he should give him a rematch? Or do you think he's just like, forget this, I'm moving right on to the next one?
Absolutely not. Again, right back to the first thing I said, the fight sucked. So it's not a good fight. It's not going to make any money. It's dangerous. I don't know if Rolly beats Barroso if they would fight again. Again, I don't know. I don't know. I feel so bad for Barroso because that was probably his last shot. Not only is he 40, but everyone knows now he's still dangerous. Who's going to risk fighting that guy now? Why? No one has to fight him. He doesn't hold any kind of position. I feel really bad for that guy. He could have been a world champion on Saturday night.
Absolutely crazy. Rolly has already called out Ryan Garcia. He's moving on.
Of course, he should never stop calling out Ryan Garcia.
Yeah, that's the fight.
He should not fight until he fights Ryan. If it takes a year, he should not fight until he fights Ryan. That's the only way. That's his best shot to make any kind of real money. Because listen, he loses to the next guy.
Yep.
Weak champions beget weak champions. It's a real shame. We had a weak matchup. Now we got a weak champion, and some other weak guy can come in and take that title now and become another weak champion. It's bad for sport.
No, it is. It is. I mean, I was watching the fight on Saturday, and I was like, damn. Like I knew Rolly wasn't on at the same level as some of these guys, but I didn't know he was that far behind.
Well, you said on the last show, he's got big power, and I'm thinking, I don't know if he's gonna have big power 40, and he doesn't. It didn't show. He
just doesn't throw combinations, and his movements he looked like almost like a video game. Like he was like moving, he was running around. Like it just wasn't a good watch. Like fights like a
YouTuber.
He looks like a lot of the fights that we see on.
It's Misfits boxing.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on to a real fight this weekend. You'll be out in Las Vegas on the call for ESPN International. It's Devin, Haney, and Lomachenko. It is here. Fight week is here. I know all the money is on Haney. He is the favorite. We've been talking about how he is the favorite. But as we get to fight week, as we get closer, I start thinking about Lomachenko. I start thinking about, man, this guy, does he have one more left in him? Do you think Vasiliy Lomachenko has one last great performance in him as we are here on fight week?
I do think he can. I do think he has it in him. Is it going to be enough? I don't know. I mean, listen, a big part of me wants it and would love to see that. I've always been a big fan of Lomachenko. I'm also the old man in me wants him to win, but yeah, it's just, I don't know. I've been picking Haney all throughout, but again, yeah, I'm having similar feelings that you're having. Like as we get closer and closer, I'm like, hey man, Lomachenko, he's got all the intangibles. He can make this thing happen. Intangibles often win these big close fights. So you never know. I mean, but yeah, I'm getting closer and closer. I'm at like 60-40 right now, Haney.
Yeah, I think it's starting to close a little bit. I think
I'm curious to see what the betting line is going to be as we get
right now. I just checked right before we recorded this. Lomachenko's plus 200. I'll see if it gets any closer and closer as we get closer in the week. We've got to think about the weight for Haney. I don't see any issues on that side, but that could be something. When it comes down,
we're gonna see a lot this week. We're gonna see what he looks like at the press conference and on the scale. He's been looking very, very big, muscular, much more so than he's ever looked before in his training camp photos. So I'm curious to see how that's going to roll over to fight week when he has to start whittling down.
So a lot of question marks. A lot of question marks on Haney's side. We talked about this. Like, okay, you won your belts, but it was over 24 rounds with Kambosos. You did have big moments against Linares, but you were rocked late. The Gamboa performance was up and down. You've never faced anyone like Lomachenko. Then you flip over to Lomachenko's side, and there are question marks with the age that we just talked about. Past performances have not looked great. The Jermaine Ortiz fight was a lot closer than a lot people thought it would be. And then it just goes back to the pedigree of Lomachenko and him having one big performance left in him and him wanting to be – it's almost like the icing on his career, sort of say. It would be becoming the lightweight undisputed champion because he's done everything before that. I mean, look at his amateur career, gold at the Olympics, every world title in all these different weight classes. The one thing he doesn't have is that undisputed title. I can't wait for this fight. The closer we get to it, the more I'm really amped up for it. I just don't know if it's going to be like an all-time thriller, though.
I never thought it was going to be. Unless Lomachenko is able to get on the inside and make this a fight, which is the way that he's going to win the fight, he could make it good. And I do think that Haney's got a little more dog in him than people will give him credit for. And I think he's not going to give up his O very easily. So we could have a dog fight in that fight, which, again, I think is Lomachenko's best chance of winning. Because if it's fought at a distance, Haney's just too big, too quick, too long, too willing to just win a boring fight. And Loma, the thing that really sticks out in my mind is Loma has been starting later and later in these fights. he didn't get off the stool until the 6th round against Teofimo. And you can't really do that in a 12-round fight against these young, hungry, fast-starting kids. Jermaine Ortiz was similar. He started slow, came on really strong late, was dominating late. That's not a good game plan against Haney. You can't get in the hole with him because he boxes too well, and his conditioning is very good. Haney has shown fantastic conditioning.
Yeah, Thriller. It's not going to be like some blood and guts type of fight. It's going to be.
But it matters.
It
the
matters.
Fight matters a
no,
lot.
no, it's so much on the line. Like there's so much at stake. Haney wins. He really solidifies himself. He becomes a top 10 guy, like legit. The Tank talk will get even bigger. The Stevenson talk will get even bigger. It matters, 100%. Like, will it be some like Gotti Ward type of fight? No, because the biggest punch in this fight is
because they're not Gotti or Ward.
The biggest punch in this fight, it's all going to come down to the jab. Haney has the best jab in the lightweight division. He lands at 25%, which is number 1 among all lightweights. It's number 6 in all of boxing. How about this, Chris? Loma only gets hit with 1.8 jabs per round. So the best punch that Haney has is his jab, and Loma is very good at avoiding jabs. So if Haney
had trouble with southpaws too,
and Haney, and that fight against Jojo Diaz, Haney landed 10 total jabs in 12 rounds. That's why his number plummeted. So Haney's going to try to get that jab going early. He's going to try to dominate with the jab. If he can't dominate with that jab, if he can't land that jab early, and Loma can start fast, find the range, get inside, that's Loma's best chance to win. Like you said, you can't like start in the 5th round if you're Lomachenko. You got to get maybe 1 round of feeling out, 2nd round, figure out that jab and get inside.
Well, I will say this because the jab is not a great scoring weapon versus a southpaw, but it's still a weapon. And
Right.
this is where CompuBox will fail on.
What did you just say?
Look at that. That CompuBox will fail when it comes to southpaws and jabs because jabbing guys in their shoulder, jabbing their arm, range finding, keeping them at bay, which is what Haney's actually really good at, doesn't get objectively scored by looking at it like that. If you're keeping tally.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm just being.
I appreciate it.
I've been a sucker to this as well in my fights where I lost a CompuBox round because I fought a fighter who fought from a shell position. I punched him in his shoulder and literally almost I tattooed his left shoulder, but I lost on the rounds in terms of the scoring.
Yeah, but you didn't lose though in the ring.
And then Teddy Atlas scored the round for him, not the Teddy Atlas.
But we don't score though.
Right, but I dominated the round. But Teddy goes, "Well, Chris only landed this many punches in the round, coming off of and I was just like, come on, dude.
Blame Teddy on that.
I dominated that round, and you gave it to the other guy because he technically out-jabbed me, but no, because I punched the hell out of his arm. But Haney can use that. He can use his physical size, and with the southpaw, that punch doesn't pierce the guard like it does when you have 2 orthodox fighters. So hitting that front hand, hitting that elbow, hitting that shoulder, hitting that hip, all those non-scoring blows. They do add up. It goes into it's not clean effective punching, obviously, but it goes into ring generalship. It goes into defense. It goes into being effective. So you got to look at that too. Even though Haney may not land as many punches against his southpaw, he still has a jab that can be effective.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. It's like a hardcore fan's delight. It has big stakes. It's a big fight. I mean, Lomachenko's a big name.
Ring IQ fight.
Ring IQ fight.
Ring IQ fight.
It's going to be awesome in that term, but like, a lot of people I feel like are sleeping on Lomachenko a little bit, and like we said in our preview that's out right now on the Inside Boxing Live YouTube, it's like Lomachenko is such a lightning rod. I have people in my mentions right now that are like, he was overrated. He's so overrated. He never did anything great. I know it's just 1 or 2 people, but I know there's a lot more out there that think that. Then you have others that say he's like the greatest to ever lace up a pair of gloves. It's like he came around at the right time. He came around with HBO pushing him, now ESPN pushing him, and his resume wasn't always the best, but he only could fight who was in front of him. It's going to be a tough battle for Loma to beat Haney, who I think is like just now really coming into his own.
Yeah, this is a timing fight. If this fight happens a little sooner or a little bit later, it's very different than it is right now. But that's what makes it so intriguing. It's almost like it's basically a 50-50 fight because of what stage they are at that they're fighting.
Well, you went 60-40, now you're 50-50.
No, but I mean, like in terms of, I'm saying that's my personal opinion. But I think honestly, if you're really looking at this, it's a 50-50 fight. But I am leaning towards Haney. because you're gonna have people on both sides. But
Will Haney
yeah,
be
no, I
up
mean,
the entire time in your opinion? Or will Haney have to? Will Haney be up on the card? Like, will he be in control the whole time, or will we have to dig deep in later rounds?
I think it's going to be very similar to a lot what we've seen from Lomachenko lately, where I think Haney starts out, comes out to an early lead, and is going to hold on to it to get a very close decision at the end. I think Loma is going to late charge. I think it's just going to fall a little bit short again, but I think it's going to be a very very tight fight in a lot of ways and hard to score kind of fight. Yeah, I don't foresee Loma being as handcuffed as he was against Teofimo. Teofimo was throwing such heat that night. Loma was being very cautious because the power was there. Is very, very different kind of fighter. Haney doesn't have that power. He's got good hand speed. He's got good foot speed. He's got good length, but he doesn't have the power that Teofimo has or had, especially that night when he was really, really came out strong. Loma was handcuffed for a good reason. I think he's going to be able to press more. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they match up. I think the physical size and the southpaw is going to be the two major factors playing into this fight.
Loma's still top 5 in total punches landed, plus minus, power punch connect percentage, jabs, defense. A lot of those stats were accumulated early on in his career, and I went back and even looked at his last 3 fights where we've been criticizing. Still landing 50% of his power shots, only getting hit with 15% punches against Nakatani, Comey, and Ortiz. Like, guy's still good. This is going to be a great fight.
I watched the Jermaine Ortiz fight the other day, and I was like, man, he did a lot better than I remember.
Exactly, because we're grading him on a curve.
The second half of the fight, he's awesome. He's so damn good. When he gets going, oof, it's some of the most beautiful stuff you're ever going to see. And he didn't look like he doesn't look like he's lost a step at all. It's just how he can't fight 12 rounds like that anymore.
He
used to fight 12 rounds.
Yep.
Now he fights 7.
Just like Canelo.
But they're 7 perfect rounds.
Just like Canelo. These guys have had long careers. So,
yeah.
Last topic before we say goodbye. Katie Taylor is fighting this weekend. Nice little appetizer. Be on in the afternoon in the U.S. First fight in Ireland since 2016. Conor McGregor's a part of it. We're expecting a massive, massive crowd. This is why I love women's boxing. Yes, I do. This is why I love women's boxing, Chris. Because
this is why I love Katie Taylor.
Yes, maybe let me start over. Take 2. This is why I love Katie Taylor.
Yeah.
And in turn, it will show why I like the way women's boxing is run. And there are holes that you could poke in it. But this is why I love Katie Taylor. She is unbeaten in 22 pro fights, Olympic gold, undisputed champion at 135 pounds. She's taking his homecoming fight in Ireland. She could have taken on someone at 130, coming up to 135. She could have taken on someone at 135, mandatory. She found a fighter. She's going up in weight to 140.
Hold on, Dan, 1 second. One more caveat. She's supposed to be fighting Amanda Serrano in the rematch, which is the biggest money fight that she could possibly make. And Amanda was not available for this fight.
Yes.
Goes on to go ahead. Sorry.
That's why I think that she went and found the next biggest fight, too. It's like, all right, we want to keep this going, make the next biggest fight. Chantelle Cameron, who is the undisputed champion at 140, just beat Jessica McCaskill. There are no tune-ups in women's boxing. Yes, the talent pool is much smaller, but she could have easily taken a lesser fight in her homecoming. This is the toughest fight of her career. I think it's a tougher fight than Serrano, Cameron. She's 32 years old, and she's bigger.
I agree, especially after Serrano's last performance against a very, very tough Mexican girl they fought in Madison Square Garden. It was a bloodbath. Awesome
Yeah, Erica Cruz.
But Erica Cruz is no Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor's in front of her that night, and I think she steamrolls Serrano. Maybe Serrano just had an off night. Never know. Is what it is. But yeah, no, Katie Taylor stepping up in weight class, fighting the next baddest, biggest lady around. That is gangster.
Awesome.
Katie Taylor is a gangster. I've been a huge fan of Katie for a while. She's my favorite female fighter out there today. For her, basically based on her style, based on her punch output, based on how she approaches her entire career. I think this was very smart on her team's point. She needs big fights because she does the same thing to everyone, whether it's the keep busy fight girl that no one's going to really respect, or the biggest baddest in the world. She's going to do the same thing. She's going to throw a bunch of punches, be nonstop, go forward, dominate, a million combinations, punches and bunches.
Yeah.
She's going to be there. She's going to get hit. She's going to hit you back. She's going to free footwork. She's in and out. She does it all. But she's probably going to do it for 10 rounds. And she's going to do that with the step down girl or the step up girl. So might as well just fight the bigger fight against the bigger name girl. I think she brings the same amount of energy either way. Katie's just a fighter. So
You
she's
think
just gonna show
Cameron
off.
has? You think Cameron can do it though? Like Cameron, I'm kind of edging
Yes.
Cameron in this fight.
Yeah.
Will she get a decision in Ireland though?
I'm very worried for this fight because I think Cameron is a very, very, very tough, and the size matters. And she's also her momentum is very high as well. And yeah, a lot of tough fights for Katie, man. That adds up, even for the ladies.
A lot of
adds
tough
up.
fights.
So very, very risky fight for Katie Taylor. But at the end of the day, Katie loses. She goes back down to 35. She fights Serrano her next fight anyway.
I think that was probably.
Does anybody care? Does anybody care? No, it's the biggest fight to be made.
That was probably another reasoning into why they chose to go up to 140, and not have her 135 belts on the line. Smart all around. I can't wait for it. It's going to be an awesome scene. Like, props. She's an absolute hero in Ireland. I haven't made my official pick yet, but I think the only way Cameron can win is by a stoppage. I'll be shocked. Anything close. I mean, come on. I mean, Katie Taylor in Ireland. She's 35 years old. Like you said, a lot of big fights. Awesome fights. It's going to be a great weekend of fights all around. Chris, you'll be out in Vegas. You ready to go back to Vegas? I feel like we were just there.
Yeah, man, this is now that I've been working as a commentator, I'm in Vegas 7-8 times a year. It's not really. I don't ever go too far without going out to Vegas, which is funny because I don't like the place that much. Sorry, Vegas, but
I don't really like it either.
I don't really like Vegas. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm at Pro Box right now. We got fights Wednesday night, and then I'm jumping on a flight Thursday morning out to Vegas. So
love it.
Boxing doesn't sleep, and neither do I.
Neither is Inside Boxing Live. Keep it locked to all of our pages. We're gonna have great coverage of Haney Lomachenko. Chris will have some stuff for us. Katie Taylor fight on Saturday. We'll be back next week to break it all down for you. As always, keep your hands up at all times. Protect yourselves at all times. Stay out of Chris's DMs. Goodbye.